Hello, and thanks for tuning in. This is Giving and Gabbing, the podcast all about fundraising success, brought to you by GiveGab, where we make it incredibly easy for fundraising professionals to be great at their jobs.
Hi, I'm Katie Thomas, and I'm the brand marketer here at GiveGab. I'm thrilled to share that we have another very exciting Giving and Gabbing episode ahead of us today. Our special guest today is Stephanie Flynn, the Executive Director of the Schneck Foundation. Stephanie and her team hosted their first ever Giving Day campaign, Shining a Light, with us on Giving Tuesday 2020. In lieu of their annual in-person gala, Stephanie launched a 100% virtual campaign benefiting the Schneck Medical Center. During this event, over $125,000 was raised by nearly 250 donors. Joining me from the GiveGab team, we have Laurel, one of our project coordinators, and Molly, our relationship manager team lead. Both Molly and Laurel worked closely with Stephanie and her team throughout the Giving Day planning period to ensure they were successful on the platform. During this episode, we will be talking about the various strategies that the Schneck Foundation utilized when planning its first virtual Shining a Light campaign, and advice for other hospital foundations considering doing the same. And with that, I will hand it off to Laurel to get started with the first question.
Thanks, Katie, and thanks, Steph, for joining us today. The first question we have for you is, what were the biggest influences in your decision to run a Giving Day for Schneck Medical Center?
I would definitely say the pandemic. That changed our world dramatically. And being a medical center, we were one of the first to react to the safety of our communities. That includes the safety of our volunteers. And our foundation is structured with over 100 volunteers. And so those are people who are engaged with us and meet with us, which we had to stop. We had to change a lot about our world. And so the decision to move to a virtual fundraising event was obviously because we wanted to do whatever fundraising we were going to do safely. But also we were able to identify a huge need that was brought to us because of the pandemic that our community could engage in and understand when they were working so hard to find a way to participate, when no one could do anything, and they knew what our staff was going through. We would get phone calls, what can we do? We can't leave home. We can't, so we wanted to make sure that what they were allowed to do was something that they could then quickly see the impact of. And so it all came together mid-year last year, just in conversation with our director of environmental services, who was standing a little flabbergasted in the hallway looking for the 2 UV units that we have. And he couldn't keep up with the demand. And just in conversation and knowing the phone calls and things that have been happening in our community, it was a perfect opportunity for us to get the community engaged and try our very first ever virtual events. So it was a pretty fun project.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that something, kind of fun to work on came out of such a dramatic time for everyone, but especially a hospital foundation, no doubt. So could you tell us maybe a little bit more about your decision to change your fundraising strategy in 2020 and how Giving Tuesday specifically played a part in that?
So I have now been a part of healthcare and Schneck Medical Center for 16 months. And so my background comes from product development and marketing and sales. And so it's very different. And so while I was learning, I was able to kind of apply the 4 P's of marketing and say, the product, place, price, promotion. It's pretty simple. So we had the opportunity to capture a pretty solid plan around each of those pillars, because it was really the only fundraising opportunity we had for the year. We were not in a pledge year or We were not in a capital campaign year, so we didn't have the opportunity to be gathering pledges and looking more long-term. So we were looking for something short-term for that engagement. And that's how we decided to go virtual. I've been part of other volunteer organizations that have performed in Giving Tuesday and do it a little bit differently than we did. But the communities that I'm engaged with are becoming more familiar with the Giving Day because there are a lot of people doing it for a lot of different reasons and a lot of different needs and a lot of different dollar requests. And so our decision to go that way was because we knew there was a need for our medical center. We knew there were people that wanted to give to support, and we knew that our only opportunity was virtual. And so we jumped in with both feet with GiveGab, and I think we met for the first time in July or August and set the wheels in motion.
It was
Wonderful.
It was a whirlwind to start in getting,
Yes.
all of starting something so new like that and just jumping in. Even before that prep time, how many staff members and volunteers and board members were taking a part in your planning for that campaign? And what did the logistics of that look like on your end?
It's because our medical center had not been a part of Giving Tuesday before, there was a lot of education to talk to each committee as we met from scratch. Here's what Giving Tuesday is. Here's what it does. Here's what we think it can do for us. And so we kind of, I mentioned plan your work and work your plan. And we planned the work, laid it out for everyone. And we had to do a lot of educating on what it was going to look like and what did it mean and how does that work virtually. And so we engaged our marketing department at Schneck, who did a phenomenal job assisting us. And 3 staff members assisted me in the foundation. And we have 9 committees, 9 volunteer committees. And so we engaged them. We made a plan for each of them and told the story. We had very specific, what we called pop-up meetings that were, all we talked about was the Giving Day. What is it? How are we going to do it? What is your specific role? So each of our committees had different goals. Our business relations committee went out and worked with businesses to let them know what we were going to do and how we were going to do it and how they could participate. Community relations committee helped us engage the community, helped us engage the community. They worked sharing messages and helping us tell stories. And so, each committee again had their own plan, and we communicated with each of them on a weekly basis. Here's some more information for you. Here's some successes that we've heard from other committee members. Hey, we had this question asked that was a great question. We're going to share it with you from another committee. So we worked very hard to keep them engaged and keep them learning and understanding. And they did a great job of sending comments and questions back to us. We couldn't have done it. We couldn't have done it without them. And not only did they volunteer and support, but they stepped up financially, and they just became a huge part of the event. And so I think they're all pretty excited about what's coming this year. We haven't figured it out quite yet, but we will. We'll find it. But one of the key components for us was having that microsite. And we just had wrap-up calls, believe it or not. We only meet quarterly. So this week has been our February meeting series. And so I've been hearing in meetings this week as I've been sharing some of the data that came from the day, more feedback like, you guys, anytime I talk to someone, I sent them to the site so they could watch the video and they could see the story and they could make it, it's quick and easy. And it was, the microsite made it so concise and very little navigation and clear. And so it took people just a matter of minutes to get it. And we coupled that again, marketing with social media and just short clips of videos to share. But one of the most critical things about it is we were coming into a time of red again, because our COVID numbers were peaking at the time of Giving Tuesday, which no one could have known that. It hindered motion, going out and talking with people, but it drove home the message that our medical center hadn't been without a COVID patient since March. And the storytelling that went around that, to be able to encourage people to continue to do what they've been asked to do, what we've all heard a million times, social distance, masks, all that. But we highlighted an individual, in fact, our very first COVID positive patient, who was here for over a month, was willing to share her story and talk with us and her daughter. And people could understand, they could relate to the daughter's situation of not being able to be with her mom, and with mom, who at the time was still trying to, still struggling to get her voice back and speak. And we had her care team engaged. One member of her care team hadn't seen her since she was released. And so when we recorded our videos together, it was quite emotional. We were able to share a story that is very difficult for medical centers to do with HIPAA laws. But she was so excited about the opportunity to say, I'm alive because of SHNEG, and this is what they did for me. So lots and lots and lots of primary, secondary marketing messaging going on. But our volunteers were able to grab a hold of that and not memorize it, but send people to it and say, here, this is what we're doing. This is what it's all about. And click through and you'll see the actual items we're going to buy. And do you want to be a part of this? So volunteers from all different levels and all different ways. So it was phenomenal. We had 32 people who gave to the foundation for the first time ever. They've never given. And so the engagement was phenomenal.
So heartwarming.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That video that you had on the landing page of the site was really powerful, having that patient and her family members and her care providers from the hospital all speaking about kind of the journey that she had. It was a really powerful story to be able to highlight and to kind of put that right on the landing page of the site, right above the donate button. I think was quite effective, in addition to how you used it in the marketing campaign as well. So you did have kind of a strategy, more strategy, like you said, in terms of the multiple sort of like marketing campaigns that we were running. And one of those was around the fact that funds raised during this campaign went towards purchasing the Diversey Moonbeam UV units for your medical center. So I was wondering if you could maybe tell us just a little bit more about what those units do for those who don't know, and also how fundraising for the specific initiative really helped you focus your Giving Day efforts.
Sure. So we have 2 units in our hospital now. Several years ago, I believe, if I'm right on this, it was 2012 when MRSA really kind of jumped into the spotlight. And when that happened, we bought these 2 very large UV units that are used to go into spaces and basically kill all the germs that it can see with UV light. And we use those everywhere. We were looking to buy some more of those, and then we kept researching and found some smaller units that kill in about half the time, and which provided us as a foundation the opportunity to buy more of them, and also the staff to be able to move them easier. I believe the units we have now are 75 pounds, somewhere in there a piece. So, when they have to move them, I'm off site. I'm not inside of the hospital. I'm outside of the medical center, and it takes 2 members of their staff to move that to areas where they need some germ eradication. And so as we were researching these, we did online demos. We talked to organizations who had purchased them, and we made the decision that that's where we were going to go. And so we set our goals based on how many we needed, how many bulbs we needed, because bulbs are another part that are quite expensive for both the old and the new unit. And then set some goals around maybe some disinfectant backpack sprayers and the chemicals needed for that. And let's see where this takes us. So I know from some past experience in other organizations that if you can tell people exactly what they're buying and exactly what it's going to do and how it's going to work, not only for them as a patient coming in, or their family and friends who might be in here that needed support, and team members, our team members. I mean, to keep our staff healthy and safe so that our community does have a place to go, it just resonated with them. And they understood the importance and how much more work we could do, not only with the current COVID pandemic, but MRSA and anything that's coming in the future. So those were the really important components that we could tell the story and help people understand and help them tie that back to Rita Heiners, our first patient, and who might be coming ahead of her, that and everyone in between. An interesting thing that has happened since. So as you mentioned, we initially set a goal of 50,000. We hit it probably 6 weeks before. And so then we doubled our goal. So we reached for 100 and got 125. During about the week before, I was getting several comments from donors like, hey, I want to do this. I'm going to do it on Giving Tuesday because I want my dollars matched. But could you designate my dollars to place one of the Moonbeam units in the cancer center? Because, several people said, that's where I feel like long-term it should be all the time. Like they should just have one. And so the really cool part of that is that I didn't know how to tell them that, oh, sure, we can do that. I mean, I can't make that decision. So, I told them, I'll let you know, we'll work on this. I'll let you know. We were able to buy another unit because we raised enough money. We're going to be creating a video next week in the cancer center with the Moonbeam unit, where it has permanent placement because it's so easy to use that the staff can use it and be trained on it. And so it did get permanent placement. So it resonated with our donors, and they can understand, and they got to see that every dollar they gave us went straight back into exactly what we were buying. So I think that was, that might have been the most important part of this, to give them something to buy, not something to just put their money into, but they physically bought things for us, $125,000 worth of things for us. And every donation that came in counted because we were able to fulfill all of that. So our $10 checks to our $12,000 checks. I mean, they all mattered, and the community got to engage with us at the level that they could. It was heartwarming. It was quite a phenomenal end to a very challenging year.
I can't wait to see that video. It's just yet another incredible story. And you're absolutely right. Seeing that, showing your donors the impact of their gift is so impactful. And you were just the absolute master of that, engaging, telling stories. And it's hard to believe that it was your first year running an online campaign of this size. And outside of everything that you did on your own, what benefits did you see working with GiveGab and having Laurel as a dedicated project manager to assist you?
Well, I would say that I pretty much did nothing alone because I couldn't have done any of GiveGab without Laurel's help. It was, we have a website. but we can accept donations. It's not super interactive. But again, being our first ever virtual request fundraiser, it was critical for us that we had GiveGab. The ease of it, Laurel, I know in the back of her mind knew this was a huge project and was thinking, all right, but we're gonna spoon feed this. Let's talk about this week, and then don't worry about that yet until next week. And so it helped walk us through it very slowly, through some of the things. Now, our marketing representative's way more savvy than I am with all of the social media and all of that fun stuff. So she caught on, and I'm sure she's probably like, yeah, I knew that, but I didn't. And it was phenomenal to have two members of my staff, me and our our data coordinator, who was going to be populating the back end and needed to understand how everything worked logistically. Laura was able to talk to all three of us at the level that we were at, and get us through to meet our goals. And timelines were set, timelines were met, nice, soft, gentle reminders. We couldn't have been anywhere close to the numbers that we were able to bring in without GiveGab.
That's really powerful to hear. And of course, working with you was such a pleasure. I know when we started our kickoff call, you already came in with lots of plans and goals. So I know I said this a lot to you, but I was so surprised to hear that this was the first virtual giving day or campaign of its type that you all were running, because you could tell that there was a lot of thought and strategy put in to this ahead of time, even before we had our first kickoff meeting in terms of working together. So it was certainly a fantastic partnership.
Thank you. It worked out beautifully.
Yeah. So you mentioned that there were donors who were reaching out saying, they wanted to wait to make their gift on the giving day to make sure that it was matched. So I would love for you to talk a little bit more about how your matching strategy on Giving Tuesday had an impact on kind of your overall success.
Sure. And you probably remember this, Laurel. I had a lot of questions around it because there's so many ways that this can happen. And we didn't know what we were doing. And so, we wanted to be very careful and strategic. And so we reached out to some of our community members who are very supportive and are deeply committed to our community, who we had seen through COVID. We're taking it very seriously. We're working hard to take care of their employees and everyone around them. And so we sat down and talked through that we thought it would be best to have 3 or 4 partners on our very first ever, because we wanted them, we didn't know how successful we were going to be. We wanted them to be able to watch those dollars climb too and hit those goals. We didn't want any of them say, oh, well, I committed 5,000 and you only raised 500 during that power hour. So we were very careful in the hours that we set with them, and talked with them and gave them a lot of information ahead of time. We gave them some of the media packet information, and they shared it on their pages to kind of drive people. And we were able to highlight them. We were able to highlight them on the page and give them some recognition for what they were doing. We also coupled that with email blasts. At the beginning of every hour, I email blasts from our database out to all of our donors to say it's starting. Here's whose hour it is. And here's when if you want it matched, now's the time. And so we had done enough publicity up front that people knew those hours. They knew when it was going to happen. And so, looking back, we probably could have had more sponsors and built up those hours more, but we most certainly learned that people want their gifts matched. And if they have the opportunity to give in those windows, they're going to do it. And so we had several people say, hey, what are those hours again? Or are you going to remind me? Those were some of the conversations. And so our staff was emailing out and saying, hey, I think you said you wanted to do this. And so we spent the day doing nothing but talking about raising funds. Being a virtual event, I was surprised that there weren't more phone calls, being our first one, but people got it and they worked virtually. And some of that was in email, which is perfectly fine. But we were able to direct them and they understood. And that was an exciting thing for our community partners in this to see as well. How important it is that there are other people joining them in support of this medical center too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you had three total sort of matching timeframes. And I remember, we looked at the trends of how donations were coming through online during those matching periods versus the times outside of the matching periods. And the difference was really remarkable. People were absolutely compelled to give when there was a match available. So that was a fantastic strategy that you were able to employ. And it sounds like you did an incredible job communicating that ahead of time so that people were ready to go. They were probably setting their timers for, 7 a.m. To make sure that they were ready to get their gift matched. Yeah. So it's a great strategy that you were able to employ.
And you've already started to touch on this, that, having those matching funds and even growing that pool for future giving days. Do you have any other, now that you have your first year behind you, any other engagement strategies that you're really excited to implement or hoping to implement next year?
Exciting and hoping. I would say I am so nervous, but we are going to implement some live events, live engagements. Well, I jumped on a webinar with you guys probably a month ago now, and got to listen to a couple groups that did it successfully, and we're both able to clearly communicate that it's okay to mess up. I mean, it's okay, just keep going. And that was probably my biggest fear. That really held me back. Plus honestly, time. Like, we really needed to keep it simple our first year so that people could engage and understand. And now we can throw some more bells and whistles in, and definitely live. It will be one of those things that we will implement. And I think there's a sponsorship opportunity there as well. So, if we have matching hours and then we have live hours where we're doing some type of engagement, we'll look for some donors for that too.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
I'm so excited about the live stream. I saw Laurel do a little clap as well. We're big fans.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And you're so right that that's another way to start to engage sponsors and give them a spotlight. And it just, having that virtual event, it just helps people feel like you're still there, and it is still an event, so there's a lot of great ways to sort of generate that excitement and that urgency around giving on that particular day by going live.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that you're going to do that. Great. So finally, just one last question for you today. Do you have any advice for other hospital foundations who, are considering running their own giving day?
Do it. It's pretty simple. Just do it. If there's hesitation, I think that I learned very early on. In fact, I was introduced to GiveGab via the hospital fundraising network, our foundation network, Hillary Lyons, that, I jumped on a call and listened to Lou explain, you guys, this isn't that hard. I know y'all don't do this, but, let me tell you how you can do this. And I think the thing that made me more comfortable is that I knew that the second we signed on, we would get a Laurel and a Molly who would hold our hands and make sure that we didn't fail. I mean, it's you can't fail. You can maybe not meet your goal, but that's not failing. The amount of PR and other things that come with that, you can't put dollars to. And so, in fact, 2 weeks ago, we got another check from someone. Yes. And so it's still in their minds and they still understand it. So I think that that any hospital who is contemplating it should make the call, set up a time to talk about it. It will help everyone get comfortable, and then plan early. Because if we would have started on this a little earlier than we have, for it being our first year, we would have been able to do some more things with it. But knowing that, we have about 2 months to really pull it all together, those 2 months for us this year will be more focused on the actual campaign than trying to explain to everyone what it is and how we do it. And so we'll be able to dig in a little bit deeper. So I guess to hospitals considering, it's you can start simple, and you can work the plan that you've made, and don't forget the engagement of staff and volunteers. And if you have the ability, a patient or two, get them engaged, get people who are in the trenches in the conversation. Our employees got very excited about it. I don't think I've mentioned it in this call, but Laurel probably knows that our hospital giving group is called EPIC. And so it's a group of employees. It's actually 80% of our employees that give back to support causes with the foundation. And so highlighting them and them knowing that what we were doing was going to help them as well as our patients really motivated them. And that group chose to give us $25,000 to buy a unit. And so without us engaging the employees in our organization, they wouldn't have known and understood that. And so we were able to do a 360-degree plan here, and it was huge, and it was so worth it. And I think more hospitals could benefit from this. I know it's probably not typically what has been done, but definitely moving the world that we're moving into, these galas and fundraising events where there's a number of people in a room are it's going to be a while. It's going to be a long while. And so we as philanthropic leaders don't want to lose that momentum with our donors. And this is an opportunity to help keep them engaged. And we really kind of made it our year-end appeal. So there's lots of ways to go with it. So just go.
That's awesome advice. Thanks for sharing. And I think one thing that's great that you've alluded to so much is that once you have that first year kind of behind you, you can really start to strategize about how to build on that campaign, and what to do next year, and where to focus resources. So while the first year there might be a little bit of a hurdle to get started and to get that like recognition of this new fundraising strategy, once you have that, it really serves as the foundation for really successful fundraising moving forward. And like you said, even if it is your first year, it still can be easy and it still can be successful.
Yes,
that's great.
Absolutely. And like I said, we had 32 new donors, but we have them engaged, and we will be, talking with them and touching them at some way all year long, in hopes to build that habit of giving around Giving Tuesday every year. And so, now our job is to do exactly that, so that they're ready to do the same thing again this fall. But now that they know that we are an option for them, and that every year will be something new, we touch more people than just large donors. We touch people who might have left our hospital a week ago after appendicitis and just had great care and want to give us $25. And so again, it all counts, and we want to be able to talk and engage, and the platform allows for that. It's important that everyone can feel invited and the opportunity.
Thank you for being on our show. This was an incredible opportunity to learn more about your campaign. I thought your site was beautiful, like beautifully branded and designed and very clear. And so it's exciting to learn more about the strategy that went behind it. And like Laurel kept saying, you would have never known it was your first year. So I am very excited to see what comes next year, because I can't even imagine how it gets better. But
we don't know right now either. So.
Before we close, I would like to again thank Stephanie for sharing her Giving Day experience with us all. If you're looking for more tools like this to take your digital fundraising to the next level, visit our resource library to stay up to date with our podcast, webinars, downloadable content, and more at info.givegab.com/resources.